camera is up. Please smile and your word.
Well, thank you, choir, and our Kevin and Carolyn. It's always good to hear Pete any time of day.
And our congregation.
And our go congregation. Excellent, excellent. So welcome everyone to our multi-platform service for the Unitarian Church of Staten Island. We are grateful to have you all join us. For those joining in person, it is wonderful to have you with us. Please be sure to wear masks throughout the service. As you can see, those of us on the chancel will refrain while we're during the service. And to maintain social distancing during the service, as long as you are wearing masks, you can sing along to the hymns and read along to any responsive readings, be there any. Those who are attending in person, you are invited to join us in the parish hall for in-person coffee hour after the service. For those joining us online, we send special greetings to you. We hope you take a moment to introduce yourself in the chat box this morning. After service, you are all invited to a virtual coffee hour. For those joining in person, we gently remind you to please silence your mobile devices at this time. And now let us prepare for our morning service.
The first time I heard Turn, 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 it was the Byrds. And I said, wow, they wrote a really great song. And then I found out it had been written a couple of decades before by this strange Unitarian guy from Harvard named Pete Seeger. And then I found out that he stole it from this guy called Ecclesiastes in the Bible. And that's what folk music is. Everybody steals from everybody and passes it along. And the thing of it is, when you get into folk music and the folk tradition, it's a lot, you think you're talking about the past. But then you find out it's also talking about the present, and you might be able to learn something about the future from it too. And it's not only Pete Seeger, but it's also that old folk writer Hannah Arendt, who wrote a book called The Origins of Totalitarianism, which I read, and I thought I was learning about the past. And then you read it again, and you realize, no, I'm learning about the present. And I'm trying to prevent a kind of future. And she wrote, before mass leaders seize the power to fit reality to their lives, their propaganda is marked by extreme contempt of facts. For in their opinion, fact depends entirely on the power of the man who can fabricate it.
Chilling but true. We will now move to our chalice lighting, and I invite you to join me in lighting our chalice. You can find the affirmation in your order of service. We light this chalice in the search for truth and the spirit of love, unite, worship, and fellowship. And as an extension of lighting our chalice, I want to take a moment of silence to light these 3 candles for just some of the names of those who have recently been afflicted by police brutality. We cannot cover all the names of those affected. We will light a candle for the life of Patrick Loya, for the life of Darrell Rochester, and for the life of Isaiah Tyree Williams. No. We're just having a few technical difficulties. Baby shuffle. May these lights be a symbol of our commitment to continue the work of racial justice and to proclaim Black Lives Matter.
Please turn in your grade and open number 1. Rise and join in singing. This storm, and may your fortune never cry. Out these windows may the roar and rain go by. By faith made strong, the rafters will withstand the battery of the storm. This heart from all the world grow chill will keep you warm. We shall walk softly through these rooms, touching our lips with holy wine, till every casual corner blooms into with laughter drown the raucous shout, and though these sheltering walls are thin, may they be strong to keep rain out and hope love in.
Now is the time in our service for joys and sorrows. If you are visiting us for the first time, this would be a lovely time to introduce yourself if you're inclined to do so. For those who are gathering in person, we invite you to raise your hand and then stand where you are seated, and I will come around, give you the microphone to share your joy or sorrow, and we certainly invite you to share what is in your heart. For those who are joining us online, we invite you to type into the chat your joys and sorrows. Ben will read them aloud, and we invite you to share what is in your heart. So, are there any joys and sorrows today?
Hi, everybody. My name is Vivian, and I've been doing a lot of traveling in the last month. Went to Virginia to see my mom and stay with her so my brother could take a vacation. Went upstate, went back to Texas to see our son. So I'm glad to be back in Staten Island. And in my comings and goings, I've been seeing Larry. Larry Schwabacher has been in the hospital and is now in rehab. I'm sure it's going over 3 weeks now. And if anybody has his number and feels like texting him a message, he could really use it. He's kind of tired of being sick, and he is getting better, and hopefully he'll be released from rehab. But if you have a moment to send him a text, it would be, or call him, that would be great. Okay? Thank you. I had it in my brain. I was supposed to say it. Golden Gate. So, but yesterday when we saw him, we rolled him out into the patio, and it was nice. Mark came with me. We had a nice.
Are there any other joys and sorrows? Yes, Mike.
Yeah, I'm Mike Stein. I just wanted to say that I took a big sigh of relief when I heard the Democrats held the Senate.
Maureen?
Morning, I'm Maureen Curran. I just wanted to say today is the birthday of my baby sister, and we'll be celebrating with her later on today. Her name is Lillian. She used to come to this church a while back, and that's it. Have a nice day, everybody.
And Sally.
Hi, my name is Sally, and this is not my joy, but my daughter and son-in-law and granddaughter went to see toured this exhibit that's in formation. They're modeling cities around the world in the Empire Outlets. They're in all these. It's about 60 people are working on making these tremendous models of New York City and Amsterdam and London. And it's going to be shown in Empire Outlets. And they had a great time. And she showed me Janine showed me some of the pictures. They're pretty incredible. I'm thinking, well, that's something that might attract people to get off the boat as opposed to whatever else crazy ideas they had, because it's going to be tremendous.
And speaking of building cities, I guess my joy is I went to see Straight Line Crazy with our good old friend Susan McAnanima up at the Shed, which is a story of Robert Moses. And you can either decide opinions, you can decide what you think about Robert Moses, but it was a beautiful play with the inimitable Ray Fiennes. So Susan and I had a great time.
Hi, my name is Eric, and was it Friday or Thursday? Oh, on Thursday, the 10th, John and I, John's my brother, performed a tune on the violin for this Veterans Day memorial, I guess. I don't really know what it's called. We played the tune Ashokan Farewell, written by Jay Unger. And yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Hi, my name is Rose. I just follow up on my son in Texas moving to New York. He did decide to move to New York, back to Staten Island. So that's great news. Now we're hunting for a 1-bedroom condo. Would have been a 2, but the real estate market went crazy. And so we're hunting for a 1-bedroom condominium. So if you know of anything, please let me know. Thank you.
Come out to Kathy.
Hi, I'm Kathy. So Tom and I have been working on updating our church directory. So I sent out an email last night and I got a few replies already. So I just wanted to let you know, Athena Huckabee says hi from Las Cruces, and she is now a practicing Buddhist. I heard from Reverend Carlson, and she sent me quite a nice, beautiful note to our congregation, which I'm going to share with you on an email. But basically, she was very glad to hear from us and would definitely like to stay on our or be put on our directory. And then there was Suzanne Bijdamo, Suzanne. Thank you. Who moved to Brooklyn. And so she's quite happy in Brooklyn because of all the conveniences nearby. And then, of course, I heard from Lillian, which was very nice. So we're going to be updating our directory. Also, if anybody has changed any of their contact information, you can let us know.
Hi, I'm Tom, and a couple of things. We just got back from visiting grandchildren, so when you get of a certain ilk, you start traveling around to visit grandchildren. So we had a great time, and the only thing that keeps us going is the fact that she'll be coming to see us in a couple of weeks. It's one of those things where you didn't say goodbye. You said, "We'll see you soon." And our other grandchild is in Florida working her way up, and I'll pick them up tonight. And Phoenix is with the grandboys. You could add the grandboys. The other thing I wanted to mention was you might notice the church is being painted, and we're coming to the end of that project. So relatively soon, Certa Pro sign will be down, and we'll have a newly painted and rotten wood restored building. So that's go us is right. You want to let the boys from Phoenix?
Are there any other? Okay, we're going to go over to our friend Ben, who perhaps has some online.
Okay. Bonnie says my friend Villasini is recuperating from COVID, being treated for cancer, and is getting stronger. She also says, feeling better about our democracy, visited the Lantern Festival with my daughter Jen and a bonus daughter Anne. Gary says, my joy is that we can attend on Zoom when we can't make it in person. That's it from the chat for now.
I also wanted to let everybody know that Kate Nielsen is in Clove Lakes Rehabilitation Center, and she also would love to have phone calls, cards, even visits if you can do it.
Okay, and I believe we're good to go. So thank you for sharing all your joys and sorrows, those that were said out loud, those that you're still holding into your hearts. We're just glad to hear and share those thoughts with everyone.
Eric, if your music was written by Jay Unger, I bet it would have fit in pretty well right here. Because I remember Jay Unger when he was a fiddle player with one of my favorite obscure rock bands, Cat Mother and the All Night Newsboy. And
obscure is the word.
I suggest you check out his Albion Doo-Wah album. And later, he was the main musician and did the music for Ken Burns' Civil War documentary. So he's a real expert on, yes, go ahead. That's right. I remember. Oh, that's a great piece. That's a great piece. Could we join together in a moment of silent meditation? So be it. I don't know if this is a first, but Senator Joseph McCarthy does not get quoted in Unitarian churches very often. But again, this is one of those things where we thought it was in the past and it's clearly in the present, and we'd prefer it not to be in the future. He said, "The reason why we find ourselves in a position of impotency is not because the enemy has sent men to invade our shores, but rather because of the traitorous actions of those who have had all the benefits that the wealthiest nation on earth has to offer. The finest homes, the finest college educations, and the finest jobs in government we can give. Today, we are engaged in a final, all-out battle between communistic atheism and Christianity. The modern champions of communism have selected this as the time. And ladies and gentlemen, the chips are down. They are truly down." And this from J. William Fulbright. And these quotes are from 1954. And Senator Fulbright said, "The junior senator from Wisconsin, by his reckless charges, has so preyed upon the fears and hatred of uninformed and credulous people that he has started a prairie fire which neither he nor anyone else may be able to control." We have this morning's offering, please.
Thank you, Darrell. Now is the time in our order of service where we take an offering. We know it is the gifts of all of us that help support our ability to thrive and gather. As we tend to say, we're not doing this alone. We need everybody working together. For those attending in person, we will be passing around the collection plates. For those online, links and instructions will be posted in the chat. You can mail us a check or donate through the PayPal giving page on our website. Please give as generously as you can. Our offerings are now gratefully accepted.
Got to do the spoken introduction. Are you going to do the spoken introduction?
No.
Well, then allow me. These are the times that try men's souls. In the course of our nation's history, the people of Boston have rallied bravely whenever the rights of men have been threatened. Today, a new crisis has arisen. The Metropolitan Transit Authority, better known as the MTA, is attempting to levy a burdensome tax on the population in the form of a subway fare increase. Citizens, hear me out. This could happen to you.
sister in Chelsea, you're my cousin in Australia. Oh, baby, we never return. His name is Jesse and Scandal. Harvey's fire goes down, his father's relations every day. That's all it takes to. And through the open window, she can Harvey's secrets every day. Oh, we never return, no, we never return. And his name is still unknown. You may ride away with the streets of Boston, we never return. Now you citizens of Boston, don't you think it? Stand up, fellas, and don't have to say anything. Like the fans in the trees, stairs to the oh, you will never return, no, you'll never return. That is name will be wonder. He makes eyes so restless, streets of
Now may we join together in hymn number 190, Light of Ages and of Nations. Please be seated. Some of you may recall that I was in the Boston area last month for the memorial service of a dear friend. And I was in Scituate, Massachusetts, which is known up there as the Irish Riviera. And at the conclusion of the memorial service, my friend's son's Irish folk band played. He's also in an Irish folk punk band, but they didn't play, just the folk band played. And one of the things they played was a song that has become part of the traditional Irish folk repertoire in Boston, the MTA. The MTA. And they played that song. And I really enjoyed that because I've been hearing that song since 1959 when it was a hit by the Kingston Trio. And I've listened to that song 100 times. I've played it, I've sung it. And for the first time, I realized that it is sung to the tune of the Wreck of the Old 97. which is the record of the old 97 is an old country song. I knew it by Hank Snow's version. I said, oh, that's interesting. I wonder what else is going on with the origins of that song. So I did a little Wikipedia searching of my, and one thing led to another. And here's what I found. That song was a hit for the Kingston Trio in 1959, but it was written in 1949. And the authors, as indicated here, are Jacqueline Steiner and Bess Hawes. Well, Bess Hawes' full name is Beth Lomax Hawes. And she was the daughter of John Lomax and the brother of Alan Lomax, who, as you know, spent decades going all around the country recording folk music of all ethnicities and all branches of the country. And they discovered Huddie Ledbetter. They discovered Leadbelly in prison down in Louisiana. So if there's anybody who would have known old folk melodies, it would have been the daughter of that family. Okay. And that song, The Wreck of the Old 97, was the first million seller country song in 1924 by Vernon Dalhart. And that song had new lyrics about this train wreck in 1903, but it was set to the music of a song that was written in 1865 by a guy named Henry Clay Work. And I found out Henry Clay Work was the Rolling Stones to Stephen Foster's Beatles, right? Stephen Foster was the number one popular songwriter during the Civil War era, and Henry Clay Work was number two. It shows you what being number two gets you 100 years later. But he wrote a song called The Wreck of the Old Ship, and he's the one that used that music, at least for the first time that we know. So that's the history. This thing that I'm listening to in Toledo, Ohio as a 10-year-old goes back to 1865 through several varieties of lyrics that are all about a disaster in one form or another. Okay. Now, the reason it was written in 1949 was because of the mayoral race in Boston of that year, which had two main candidates, a Republican and a Democrat, and a third party candidate for the Progressive Party named Walter O'Brien. Okay. Now, people who know history know in 1848, Henry Wallace, one of FDR's vice presidents, ran for president on the Progressive Party. He was not successful, obviously he wasn't, but it had a number of left-wing progressive people, also socialists, and many people suggested there were communists who were also part of that. And so Walter O'Brien ran as a progressive, and here's was his main thing. There was a fare increase on the MTA that year, including a nickel exit tax that you had to pay. So that song is absolutely accurate. But the main reason it became an issue for Walter O'Brien was that in 1948, the MTA was sold from private hands to the city of Boston. It's the same, the subway system in New York used to be 3 or 4 different private lines, and it all coalesced into a government agency, right? Well, that happened in Boston too, except he was convinced that the private people who had sold it made millions of dollars more than the market value through sweetheart crony capitalism of the government of Boston, the state government of Boston, giving a sweetheart deal to the people. So that was really the issue that Walter O'Brien was pounding at. And because he was the third party candidate in a progressive party, he had no money for advertising on the air or in newspapers, but every folk singer in Boston supported him. And so he would pay like $10 a piece for songs that they would write about his campaign. And then the folk singers would go around on the back of pickup trucks through Boston and sing the songs. And one of the songs was the MTA. Now, however, this became a pretty popular song around Boston. And Walter O'Brien started getting more and more publicity. So the Republicans and Democrats agreed on one thing, that you had to stop the progressive. And they started something, and I won't say they invented it, but they certainly were one of the first to perfect red baiting. And they accused the Progressive Party and Walter O'Brien of being communists and worse. And it really cut into his support. He ended up with about 2% of the vote, but the Progressive Party never ran in Boston again. And Walter O'Brien was so shattered by the lies thrown against him that he actually left Boston and opened a used bookstore up in Vermont or New Hampshire. And so that was the fate of Walter O'Brien. And when the Kingston Trio wanted to record it in 1959, they changed the name of the candidate from Walter O'Brien to George O'Brien, specifically because they wanted to separate themselves from this terrible Progressive Party candidate. They didn't want to think that they were associated with something as bad as the Progressive Party. So that's why it's George O'Brien and not Walter O'Brien in the MTA. So that was the first Red Scare, this little song that we've been singing for decades. Now, the thing of it is this red baiting strategy to attack liberals and progressives, that worked pretty good. I wonder where else that can be used, And the next time it was used, of course, with good old tail gunner Joe McCarthy, using red baiting at his House Un-American Activities Committee, which, as we know, ruined the lives of any number of people. But it made a couple of careers, and one career it made was his consul named Roy Cohn. You know Roy Cohn around here. Everybody knows Roy Cohn, right? Angels in America. Yep. And of course, Roy Cohn had a number of prominent clients, one of which was Fred Trump. And he was Donald Trump's father's lawyer and Donald Trump's mentor. And you may remember a few years ago when the legal problems first started fomenting against Donald Trump, he actually kept, where's my Roy Cohn? Right? Where's my Roy Cohn? My kingdom for a horse, And so that has gone all the way down. We thought that with the disgrace of Joe McCarthy, this stuff would be done, but it's not done. It's not done. It's never done. That's the whole point. Authoritarianism, authoritarian bullying runs through American history like herpes. It becomes active during times of high stress when the system has low immunity. It's an opportunistic virus, exactly like COVID. It's for those who want to play by their own rules. And in American history, we could say it might have started with George III. Who could play by his own rules more than a king? But he was not the only one, even after the Revolution. If you study the life of Aaron Burr was a guy that wanted to play by his own rules. He also invented the word filibuster, and the word filibuster comes from an old word for pirate. So if you're using the filibuster, you're trying to pirate, you're trying to steal the process. Aaron Burr invented that. Then there was Andrew Jackson, who made genocide a profitable enterprise for government. There was Andrew Johnson, who managed to overturn the results of the Civil War with a few vetoes. There was the Gilded Age with the robber barons. There were in the 20s and 30s, the anti-immigrant, anti-Semitic, anti-Catholic, anti-Black, America First movement. And that really came from when Hoover and Coolidge started talking about Americanism. That old Chamber of Commerce sort of Babbitt sort of approach. And the next generation after that took that and used it as an excuse to not involve America against the Germans in World War II. The whole America First thing with Charles Lindbergh was basically to discourage American intervention in World War II. Except a lot of people now don't realize that. Don't realize when they hear America First where they came from. Well, Goldwater used America First. Reagan used America First. Patrick Buchanan used America First. That's been nurtured for all along, the John Birch Society. America First is a dog whistle to fascists, though it sounds good to the ignorant. Up where I live in Milford, Pennsylvania, a young couple has opened a sort of general store. If anybody watched the TV show Schitt's Creek, the store that the son opened, it's a store like that. It sells all sorts of stuff that you wouldn't necessarily think to buy in rural Pennsylvania. It's a very nice store, and they're a lovely couple. But we got some. Actually, the two sons of Reverend Moon live up there, and I won't get into what they're doing, but that's pretty despicable. But one of their followers brought an America First sign into this young couple's store. And they thought, well, that sounds good. I'll put it in the window. Whereupon a firestorm of the progressives in Milford, Pennsylvania said, what the are you doing with an America First? He said, well, America. And all the ignorant are not stupid. This couple was from Australia. They had no idea of the history of this. They're in their 30s. But a lot of voters who think America First sounds like a good idea don't know the origins of it and don't know what it's meant throughout American history. Now, last week, Americans and Democrats particularly were worried because of the polls, right? The polls were saying awful things about the possibilities coming up. Now, polls in 21st century America are the equivalent of witches in Shakespearean plays. Beware the Ides of March. But what they really needed to do was go back to the beginning of Macbeth. The beginning of Macbeth take part with the witches. And the main line there is, fair is foul, and foul is fair. Hover through the fog and filthy air. Now, what better describes the atmosphere than that? The air of democracy has been fouled and become filthy, and we don't know what is fair and what is foul. And then, just a day or so before the election, there was an eclipse of the moon. But better to interpret that than the witches of Shakespeare. It was bad luck. It was bad luck. And it came true. It was bad luck for somebody. Yeah, right. And regarding the auguries of the sky, the best Shakespearean quote, of course, is from Julius Caesar. When Brutus says to Cassius, the fault lies not in our stars, but in ourselves. But the next line is really the meaning. The next line says, the fault lies not in our stars, but in ourselves, that we are underlings. And that has such a multi-level, because this was said by one senator to another about the man who had become like a god. And now the senators were disempowered and were underlings. But of course, the other level is that all the people were vastly more underlings even to the senators. And so when you see Brutus and Cassius going about their political intrigues, you wonder, is it to free the people or for they themselves to become despots? And that's really always the question, isn't it? There's nothing new about what we are experiencing. All of history tells the same story. What is new is that it is now our time. And the world will turn and we will come and go, but the struggle will continue and not end with us. For the fault and our redemption lies not in our stars, but in ourselves. Freedom is never permanently won or lost. Not only ain't it over, it ain't never gonna be over. It's not always a struggle, though. It's not always a struggle against religion, but sometimes it is. It's not always a struggle against one political party, but sometimes it is. And it's not always a time to rejoice, but sometimes it is.
Cheers.
May we join together in our closing hymn, number 287. Because my father was a slave and my people died to build this country, I am going to stay here and have a part of it just like you, and no fascist-minded people will drive me from it.
And I'll take a moment. We can take a moment to extinguish the chalice. I invite you to join me in extinguishing our chalice, and you can find the affirmation in our order of service. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. For these we carry in our hearts until we are together again.
Find your worksheet and join it.
Marvelous. So ends our service. Thank you, everybody. And please come on into the parish hall and join in some hospitality. For those of you online, we hope you're going to continue to have a chat. Anybody can stop by Ben and say hey to the folks who are online. Let them know that we know that they're there and they're with us too. So come on into hospitality.
Alexa, turn off timer.
Right now.
Hello?
Keep saying it.
Can you hear me?
Yes. Can you stop the recording, please? I'm sorry.
Yes. Thank you. Forgot about that.
Very welcome. Thank you.